Okay. Uh, Welcome everybody to this year's SCPGA Youth Teaching and Coaching Summit. We are really excited about today's program. Before we dig in and get to a host of speakers that we have lined up, I'd like for you guys all to take just a quick second, and I'd like you to close your eyes and just bear with me for just a moment. I'd like to set the stage. Obviously, you can see an image up on the screen. But I'd like for you to imagine for just a second that you're a 5-year-old kid or a 7-year-old kid or a 10-year-old kid. You can be the parent of that kid if you'd like, but you've never been to a golf course before. You've never experienced the game. Some might come in with a sense that it's a difficult game to play, and a golf course is a scary place. Or maybe I've got a friend who plays, and I'm just trying to see if this is for me. And I just want everybody out there to remember that at one point in time, that person's going to take a first step on our facility and have a first experience with us as PGA professionals and golf professionals of any sort, and youth leaders of any sort for that matter. And if we can really reach out and make this fun for them, and make this a welcoming place for them, and make this a place where they want to grow as kids and grow through the game of golf, become better at skills, become better people, and have a ton of fun every single time they come to a golf course, then this is going to be the kind of place that they want to stay for a lifetime. And I think that sometimes, we over focus, and I'm just throwing it straight out the gate here. Technique and skill and all of these things that we teach players as skilled professionals leading people to become better players is absolutely massively important. And it's so critical to be able to do those things for our students, but leading them to have fun and enjoy the experiences and develop as people is so at the top of the list here. So I just want to encourage you guys as we go through this, to remember you're a kid and you're a little nervous and you're a little excited, and you're a parent, you're a little apprehensive, and you really want to get this off to a great start. And we're here to share with you guys today some of the leaders in our industry and how they present specialty areas and how they present the game to 4, 5, 6-year-olds, and how they work on their fitness and their putting, and their mental games. And we're going to share snippets that hopefully allow you to walk away a better professional. And at the end of today, we're gonna look at it from a section perspective as to how we can help you be better at any of the things that you're about at your facility. Real quickly, just as a little bit of a business side, if you have questions for any of our panelists, please type it into the bar and send it in that way. We will look through the questions and get to as many of them as we can. We will ask trivia questions throughout the program. Like to have fun with trivia questions. We've got some great prizes lined up. You'll see how that goes. First answer into the text bar wins the prizes. So that's how that will go. Definitely want to thank our sponsors, Rhapsido and Cleveland Golf Strixon. Really appreciate you supporting the event. And without further ado, I wanted to jump right into a short video that we filmed a couple days ago, or actually a couple weeks ago, with PGA coach George Pinnell and his student Rose Zhang, the #1 women's amateur golfer in the world. I hope you enjoy. When did you meet George, and when did you start working with him as a player?
I met George in the March of 2015, and it was through a mutual friend. At the time, I was trying to find a coach that would suit my game and take it to the next level. And from the first lesson that I took with him, I just thought that he was a great coach that I could learn a lot from. So from there, I just started taking lessons.
George, when you first started working with Rose, what were some of the traits that you saw in her that led you to believe that she would become a great player?
Well, I had never seen her before or met her, so I really didn't know anything about her. It's like the rest of everybody that's here today, they have to interview players and find out what they do best and what their weaknesses and strengths are, and so we interviewed. And at first I really didn't know what to expect, and it took quite a while before I really knew what was going to be happening. And it was through the year of 2015 that I think Rose played in 12 or 13 Toyota Tour Cups, and throughout that process, she played pretty doggone well. And of the 12 or 13 events, she finished in the top 10 in all but one. And a lot of those were down near the winner's circle. And so at that point, I knew we had something pretty special going on.
What % of your practice time is spent on the driving range, hitting short game shots, putting, and working on the golf course?
If I had a percentage, then I would probably have 40% as my driving range time, and then the other 60% would be short game and putting. I usually, after school, I end school around 2:30, and I would go on the course to hit some balls around 200 to 300, and then I chip and do my short game sessions for about an hour to 2 hours, and then putting an hour to 2 hours.
George, what did your golf lessons look like when you guys started working together, and how have they evolved to now?
Well, when we first started, I didn't know anything about her golf swing, so I had to learn about her, and of course we had to go through the process of learning about each other, because it takes a period of time for coaches and players to understand each other and what each other's looking for, and that doesn't just happen. And as a result, I had to find out more about her golf swing. So in the early days, it was mainly fundamentals, going through processes and such to get where we wanted to be. And then today, it's quite different. We're not really adding things to the golf swing. What we're doing is just maintenance and just maintaining the fundamentals and that we learned through the 5 or 6 years we've been working together. And Rose is very, very good about that. And as a result, that's basically what we're working on.
Rose, what % of golf is mental? Can you give us an example of something that you do to stay calm and focused on the golf course?
I think that putting a percentage on the mental aspect of our games varies from person to person. So for me personally, I think that mental would be around 80% of the golf game, because the 20% obviously includes the technical aspect and being able to execute out on the course. But in the end, if you want to score well in any event, or have the course management during your play, you really need to have a good mental and a positive attitude on the court.
George, if you were giving some advice to a golf coach working with young players, what would it be?
When you're working with young players, go back to the having fun, work on fundamentals, make sure the processes are good, because if you're having a good process, you're going to have a good outcome. If you're looking at outcomes ahead of the process, and that's what most parents do with their juniors, is they're always getting measured on how they perform, not on the process of how to get there. So it's very important to go through the fundamentals and help coach the parents as well. Learn to have a relationship with the parents, and the more time you're in the business, you'll have the confidence to be able to talk directly to the parents to help coach them to be better teammates of their child. So those are some important things that I think we should look at.
Rose, if you were giving advice to a young girl just developing a relationship with the game of golf, what would it be?
Well, I think that first of all, you need to realize that you're playing for yourself and you're not playing for anyone else. So with that in mind, just go out there and have some fun with how you're playing, and have fun with the friends around you when you're on the course. So I think just learn to enjoy playing this sport. You don't have to force yourself to do anything, and having a good relationship with the sport is just the most important, and it will help you drive yourself to improving more, and you can actually use the sport to pursue a college career or a professional career.
Extremely serious question.
Okay.
Okay? Can you please rank these in order?
with respect to how you keep your hair out of your eyes while you play golf. Okay? Rank them in order. A scrunchie, a hair tie, or a hair clip, like an alligator clip.
Hair tie, scrunchie, and then hair clip. Yes.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Play for third at the par 5 15th.
Again, just a wedge to an elevated green. And wow, stops on a dime.
Good 4 gets the job done, the 17-year-old. Winning the 5th, 1 up through 23.
Just don't fly it long.
Oh, look at this.
Great shot.
What a shot at this moment.
I got that.
And Rose Zhang, the 17-year-old from Irvine, California, wins the U.S. Women's Amateur Championship.
Oh, my goodness.
In a heartbreaking way for their opponent. What a win for this teenager, though.
Well, her steadiness and her ability to just hang in there.
Pretty incredible stuff. George, are you there?
I am.
George, you can hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
great. Folks, sorry for any technical there. I clearly, after a year of COVID and Zooming, should know the mute non-mute function now, but I guess we'll chalk that up for an early double bogey. But I will progress through the rest of the round in excellence as best I can. George, really quickly, before we get going, welcome to the Youth Summit. Appreciate you taking the time to answer some questions with us here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and enjoy the interview with Rose. And I want to thank the SDPGA and yourself and Nikki and Tom Addis for helping make all this possible. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Before we get to the less serious questions, of course, do you have an order of hair products that you use to keep the hair out of your eyes when you're coaching, George, or do you just go with the hat?
The hat is it.
Yeah. Okay. Got that.
If I'm feeling good, maybe I won't wear the hat and I'll just go short hair.
I'm sticking to the hat as well. Just yeah, it's a better option at this point for me as well. We were talking last week, ironically, as Rose was prepping for her first Symetra Tour event. Can you tell us a little bit about the story of your last session together before she was preparing for that event?
Yeah, sure. Last Wednesday, be a week before the Symetra, so it'd be the week before, and so we had a lesson, and usually our lessons, we've been working together for 6 years, and our lessons are really go usually very well because of the fact that she does so well. However, this was probably the worst session that we've had in 6 years, and neither one of us have any clue as to what was going on, but she just wasn't hitting the ball very solid. If people were looking and watching, they would have thought, well, there's nothing wrong with that. She's hitting the ball pretty good. But Rose and I knew that she wasn't on. And so at the end of the lesson, she was to leave within a few days and head over to Mesa for the longbow. And as a result, we were a little bit on edge of what to look for. But between the time she left on Wednesday and the time that she teetered up on at the Symetra, she got things under control, as she usually does. And you all know the outcome by this morning. And by the way, it's not an unusual thing that you saw what she did yesterday and on Saturday.
Yeah, and so for those that don't know, she played in her first Symetra Tour event. And George, can you tell us a little bit about her last 9 and/or her last 18?
Yeah, she was sitting back. I can't remember, 3 shots, I believe, going into the last round, and she played really, excuse me, she played really strong. Pardon me, going into the backside, and as it was, she ended up making birdies. I can't remember. She had 6 birdies or 7. I can't remember. But as it turned out, she ended up birdieing one of her last holes, and that put her in the lead. So she was the leader in the clubhouse. And she was just kind of holding on to see what happened when her opponent came in. And of course, we know what happened then. It was a tie.
George, you have a history of working with a lot of elite players, obviously, some tour players, Mr. Kim and Mr. Na, a while ago. I know we were talking about some of those experiences. When you have a player like Rose, who is just a special and gifted player, how do you keep a really top player grounded?
Well, I think we go through processes of making sure they understand why they're playing the game and the importance of it, and how to maintain relationships and any successes or failures and how to handle them. And I think we start that out at a very young age. Rose was this was in 2015 when we got together, so she's pretty young. And I think it's just a process of going through and explaining to them and keeping them looking forward and not looking back at what their successes were or their failures were, and just keep pointed straight ahead. And just to have a positive attitude, and like Rose said, a good relationship with the game.
George, how important is it to be resilient as a player, and what do you do, or can you talk to us about how you share about being resilient and mentally tough with Rose and your players?
Well, I think that probably one of the biggest things that we just tell players, very simple, and I tell all of them when they're getting better and better, is you just have to take care of your golf ball. And if you're not taking care of your golf ball, then we're going to be running into trouble. And we never look back on anything that we've done. We do that when we're young, and all the young players do that. We've all done that as players. All you guys out and gals out there watching today, we've all done that. But it's really important that we are able to get past any mistakes that we might have, or any successes we might have had on previous holes, and just look forward to the next shot and take care of what's in front of you and never look behind. And I know that's it's a coin thing that we always say, but it's super, super important in getting better players, or getting players to become better.
Thanks. I just wanted to just quickly for the audience out there, we're going to keep asking George some questions for the next 15 minutes here. If you do have some questions that you would like to ask George, you can throw them into the question bar. Whether it's with Rose or any of the other players or teaching philosophies. I just wanted to open up to you guys to feel free to ask a question. We'll try to make sure that gets asked. George, I obviously in the time that we've spent together, you know, I think we share a passion for being athletic, other sports and history. I know you didn't start in golf once upon a time. Do you think that your background as an athlete first, and in playing lots of other sports and understanding motion has been a big asset to you teaching the game of golf?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, being an athlete first is probably an advantage. I have worked with players that are non-athletes, and some of them have become very good at the game. But I think being an athlete, and the earlier you can become an athlete, is going to be helpful in the game of golf. So yeah, I think that's very important.
Just had a question come through here from Mr. Billy McKinney. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. The question is, do you discuss with your students about screen time management and about what they do with their free time while on the road, watching movies, playing instruments, artwork, etc.?
Screen time meaning games and things like that, I would presume, Billy?
Yeah, I believe the old computer there.
Yeah. Yes, of course, we do. And you take someone like Rose Zhang or Catherine Park or Cindy Ko, any of these elite players that have had success out there, including some of the older players as well, we really encourage them to keep their phones in their bag. And that's a test sometimes, because the kids have a habit of looking at their phones all the time, and but the elite players don't do that. Now they may take a break, and then it's okay to check out and see what's going on, see if they have any messages or anything. But in general, when they're working, it's time to work. And so we do watch that pretty careful. As the parents enjoy us doing that too, by the way.
How much time, Blake Jurgis just asked, how much time in a lesson is spent working on technique versus building the relationships?
Our relationships start out from day one, and that takes the time to develop because we have to get to know each other. And once I take a player on, typically it takes maybe actually a couple of months for the player to adjust to what I'm looking for. And it's probably a little bit quicker and most times for me to see what the player is doing, how they do it, and what they're looking for. But it takes a period of time for us to get the relationship where we want it. And then the rest of the time is spent on developing the swing and developing the kind of swing that I like to see and that the player likes to see. And we spend a lot of time with that. Now with Rose, it's quite different because with Rose, now it's more a case of us managing what she does. Rose, RZ doesn't like a lot of change. And so as a result, there's things that we do in the swing and we make sure that we are there all the time. There's certain TrackMan numbers that we like for her. And we're always looking at those. And if those aren't right, we're putting them back in tune. And as a result, that's worked well for us. And it's worked well with our other players as well.
How much do you have whether it's a general or specific, how much time do you spend teaching on the driving range versus out on the course and out in the play elements themselves?
Actually, most of mine used to be I'd be on the course a lot more when I worked over at Industry Hills and one other place. But now that I'm at the Rolling Heights Golf Center, most of my time is spent on the range. And I've always looked at it a little bit different than some. In my later years when I'm teaching working with the better players, whether they're young or older, I won't usually go out on a golf course unless a player can control where they're hitting the golf ball. Now, it's important for juniors to get out on the golf course and get the fundamentals as to where the tees are and proper etiquette and things like that. But I look at it from a little bit more advanced position that if I'm going to go out with a player, I want them to be able to hit the ball where I'm looking, where I can really help them more than just showing them around the golf course. And of course, when I'm on the golf course and giving a playing lesson, it's always been my position never to play. I'm there for them and not for me to be hitting balls and then running over and talking to them. That's a big deal with me.
What do you do about helicopter parents? I know you obviously, again, in my world, I work with, a lot more of the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid who's just out there having a blast, having fun, learning the game, loving the game. My whole world is about having a positive experience, having a ton of fun. And then as the kids start to get involved and loving the game and playing more and more, the talent sort of kind of starts to become evident through those experiences. That's sort of my world and wheelhouse of how I see it. The talent comes out of creating a play atmosphere where kids can just play. Obviously, in your situation, you work with already refined and better players. More so, or do you work with a lot of players who are also on the new side of things?
Usually the players that I look at now that I'm entertaining more is people that's had some advanced play before me, and it'll take them all the way down to maybe 8, 9, 10 years old. I've got a girl right now. She is actually Michael Zhang, the tennis player that won the French Open back in the 90s. Sure. He and Amber, his wife, who was a 2-time NCAA individual tennis champion at Stanford, they brought in Maggie, and I resisted their calls for about 3 or 4 weeks before I decided to take her on. And the reason I decided to take her on was I didn't want to take a youngster on that young. But then when I started thinking about, well, Michael Chang and two-time individual tennis champion, the NCAAs, I wonder what the genealogy would be there. And that's what got me involved in getting Miley. And boy, what a trip that was. This is a lot of fun. This girl is advanced even at her young age. She just turned 8 not long ago. And as far as the helicopter parents go, I have, as I've gotten older and more experienced, I'm able to kind of be a little bit more direct with parents than when I was younger. I didn't have the courage maybe or the wherewithal to be able to speak to them. But now, you know, in the past 20 years or so, when I can't manage the parent, I've actually gone up to them on their first or second lesson. And I've actually returned their money and explained to them that because of their involvement, I won't be able to work with their son or daughter. And I've done that a number of times because I won't, there's some things that I will allow. And then there's other things when they're to be too much of a part of it. I won't let that stand. So I kind of manage that myself.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's an important side of it. And I know, you know, certainly from a younger instructor standpoint, someone who's on this call who's dealing with people, it can be difficult to it's your customer, that's who's paying you. But at the end of the day, this really is about the kids, and it is about the players, and it is about, you know, the improvement in the golf skills and the having fun playing. And it's unfortunate that the parent actually disrupts that process a lot more than they even realize.
Yeah, they don't mean to. They're you know, they're on the same team as we are. They just don't know how to handle it, and they don't have a lot of experience. They're mom and dads, and they're doing what they think is proper for their child, but sometimes it gets in the way. I had a youngster. This is real quick. I had a youngster come in yesterday. I haven't taught him for probably 2 years, and he was pretty young when I had him. They came back in. And he's like 11 years old, 11, maybe 10. And his father had just ordered, because somebody fitted him and put him in 85-gram steel shafts. This boy weighs about 80 pounds. And it's,
lumberjack.
Yeah, and it just blew me away. And we had to have a little conversation about that. And he's canceling the order, obviously, because the boy is not able to handle that type of weight in a shaft. But yeah, those are things that we have to do as coaches. And I would encourage the younger guys that are out there and gals out there that it's very important to be able to have a relationship with the parents where you can speak frankly with them and openly and honestly with them, because they're a big part of the team. Without them, I call them the CFOs. The players, the CEO, and the players are the CFO, the chief financial officers. So they're an important part of the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me ask you, from a mental game perspective, you know, when kids are struggling, do you have any specific things or areas that you would talk to a player who's struggling in those aspects?
Mainly it's just try to get them to stay the course, and then when they're struggling, take them back to the fundamentals and go back to when they're having a little problem making contact with the ball, take them back to a real small swing with a wedge and start chipping and pitching with them to get better contact, and always give them encouragement and explain that it will get better. You just have to stay the course and put in the time practicing and get the number of reps to be able to learn the skill that we're trying to teach you. And I would encourage, as all the men and women out there know, encourage your players to start with a small motion and then move to a much bigger swing for a better success and quicker success.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's great advice. Adding on to that, I also feel like, especially with younger players, you know, that start to lose it a little bit mentally, I find a lot of times it's because the player is really much more focused on the result that they're trying to get versus just being involved in playing the game. And I think, again, it just keeps coming back to, if I can get the player away from, hey, it's, you're not hitting the ball as well as you want. Let's play a little game, and let's create a game. Let's create something where we're more focused on fun. We're more focused on, gamesmanship between me and the player. And we just get them away from what happens when I hit a bad shot and more into the playing of a game. There's, as a kid, you grow up, we talked about basketball a couple of times, and you sort of innately, if I'm playing a basketball game with a bunch of kids and I'm missing shot after shot after shot, yeah, I'm sure it's upsetting to miss shots. But if we're playing and we're having fun playing a game, then the missed shot's just a missed shot. If all you're focused on is if I don't score points, I don't win. And if I don't win, I don't get prizes, then you're losing perspective on fun.
Yeah, great point. And we spend every day, I mean, every day, talking about process and not outcomes. And one of Rose's, one of her mantras is she does not think about, she doesn't look forward. She has no idea how she's going to play. And that was kind of what happened from our lesson last week into the Symetra Tour, where she shot 17 under. Because we had no idea what was going to happen. And that's because she doesn't look at outcomes. She doesn't go into a round or a game thinking that she's got to shoot a certain number, because she has no idea. No one has an idea of how they're going to play on a certain day, because we've all gone out to the range and we've all warmed up really well, and we've gone out and we've really played poorly. On the other hand, we've gone out and we've really had a poor warm-up day, and we've gone out and we've played really well. So we're always looking at the kids, and the parents specifically is not to look at outcomes. In fact, when we're teaching certain skill sets and we're working on maybe face control or path or swing direction or something, we're always telling the parents, don't look at where the ball goes. It's not important where the ball goes. We'll get to that when we get the club path right and the swing direction, the face angle right. Then we start paying attention to shot dispersion. But until then, the parents and the player has to understand that where the ball goes is not important. And there's one other thing too that we do a lot of with TrackMan. There's a couple of points that I look at in a golf swing, and what the player and the parents always look at is where the ball goes. Now, the player can make a really good swing and have really good numbers on TrackMan, but the ball goes sideways on them. Well, the swing, I say, was a super swing. It was really a good swing for them. The only problem was the face angle wasn't right. So I separate face angle, which is the result, and what the swing might have been, because the swing might have been very good, but face angle is wrong, and it's going to produce a bad shot. So once they understand that, then they're a little bit more comfortable with seeing their youngster hit a ball to the right or the left or not down the line. Because all the guys and gals out there today, when parents are watching, they're always at, well, why aren't you hitting the ball straight? Well, because I'm working on something. Now, parents, when you explain that to them, they understand it better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you, and I know you were an early adopter with the TrackMan, I think one of the first in that realm. Do you use a lot of the games and combines inside of that?
Yeah, not so much the combines. We do it when we want to nail in as to where a player is really good, what the yardages they're good at, but they have to be old enough and strong enough to be able to hit the driver pretty good for it to register. However, now you can develop your own game and your own yardages. I haven't done that, but we do a lot of work on the test center, because that's how the tour players do it. They spend very little time looking at their swing numbers like we do, because we're developing swings. They've already got their swings. So they spend most all of their time on distance control and mainly from about 125, 40 yards in.
Got time for two more questions here, George, and then unfortunately we're going to have to wrap it up here. Do you encourage your players to play other sports, or stay focused just on just on golf, and then yeah, let's give you that one then the final.
Generally, yeah, I do when they're young. But I think when they get to be somewhere in that 11 age, somewhere in there 11 or certainly 12, then they've got to start looking a little bit more direct. But when they're young, you absolutely, I like to see them now and involved in many different activities to develop their athletic ability.
George, final question. How important is it to have fun, lead fun, and be fun in your golf lessons with players?
Well, always it's fun and it's very important. The younger they are, the more fun you have to have. In fact, I'm kind of known with the younger players as teasing them a lot and having a lot of fun with them, and it keeps them from focusing too much on their outcome and that. So it's really is important to have fun. Now, the older you get and more competitive the players are, the fun kind of changes somewhat. But in the case of some of the top players that I've had over the years, it always evolves into some kind of fun during the lesson. It'll be a comment from them or from me or something. And but fun is a big part of the game. It has to be. You know, if we're not having fun out there, why are we playing? We can't just play for the score. We can, but at the end, we're going to be a little bit unhappy. George
Pinnell, thank you so much for your time with the interview and getting to know you and Rose and spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be following up with you after this. If nothing else, this summit, I feel like it allowed us to develop a friendship, and I look forward to all that comes in the future. Thank you so much for your participation today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the SCPGA.
Absolutely. We're going to take just a quick break, and then we're going to hear from our next speaker and dive into the start of golf, all things fun, and a great next speaker. Give us about 3 minutes here, folks.